And are we live yet? It looks like we are now officially live. Oh, what is going on, everyone? Flynn Master is coming back at you with another episode recap, the 5th episode recap of Hell's Kitchen Season 22, The American Dream. And no new guests today, but I'm happy to have them as usual. As usual, I'm joined by my co-host, Ultra. How you doing, Ultra?
Doing best I can. I felt a little bad the last few days, but I can muster through it. I was happy to get to see a new episode live.
And coming back, I think third time now, right, on our channel, Cheyenne?
Third time back on the channel. Always happy to be here, even if I'm a substitute for the people that can't make it. Okay.
Yeah. Apparently, everyone's like you've been saying, Cheyenne. It's hard to contact people, and like everyone's been busy these days. I don't know what's going on in the chef world, but it is what it is.
It's busy season.
Yeah, it is busy season after all, I assume, with all the holidays coming up and whatnot. But yeah, like I said, everyone, they're still happy to have all you here. What's up, Matthew? What's up, Matthew? What's going on, everyone? We got Adam saying hello to Cheyenne. What's going on, everyone? Happy to join us here on this Thursday evening to talk about Hell's Kitchen Season 22. A very, very good episode and what I consider a really good season. So Cheyenne, given, you haven't been on the channel yet, what do you think about this season so far? Because you've been really low on both. Even your own season been low on. So you've been kind of low in the first two, season 20 and 21. So what's your opinion on this season so far?
I think this season's pretty good. I don't have too many problems with the season. I think the theme is a little bit corny, but I think that other than that, if you could put that aside, they don't really. I think it's a good season if you don't pay too much attention to the theme being a little bit corny.
Yeah, that's American. It's just a meme all over Reddit.
It's. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the only thing. If that's the worst thing that happens this season, then we can live with that for sure. All right, cool. Yeah, so let's not waste any time. Let's get right into the episode, right? And it starts off with the bang right away. We've been kind of talking about just how chaotic this season so far. And it wasn't this time a team fight. It was a blue versus red fight. We had Renisha going up to Jason, and we almost got literally like a Big Brother type moment where she got the entire house down for a house meeting to like duke everything out. Kind of walk me through that, like how shocking was that to see? I mean, obviously we got suspense from it last episode, Jason, but are you surprised it actually came to this?
A little. I mean, not that Renisha would fight back like this, because like that makes sense to me. Like if someone's saying like, hey, your entire team is talking crud about you, my first thought would be like, are they? Okay, let me see exactly how much crud they're talking about me. And the fact that Jason was walking away with the excuse of, I just don't like the drama, you're already in on the drama. So no, that excuse does not fly. But yeah, it gave the whole game away that he was just talking out of his rear end on that one.
Cheyenne, let me ask you this. What's your kind of take on this cast? It's because like we've been talking about these past couple podcasts, it's been a very, very catty cast. Have you been enjoying it? Has it been too much for you? What do you think about this fight? Just kind of give it to me.
Yeah, I've been enjoying the beef between the teams on this season. Our season, we all got along so well, and I feel like it was probably boring for a lot of people to watch. And I've seen a lot of comments that our season was boring. There wasn't a lot of drama, and there just wasn't. So I'm really enjoying the drama on this season. Renisha is carrying a lot of the drama. I don't really mind. It is a little catty, but I think it's more entertaining than anything. And if the theme's going to be corny, I'll take entertainment through that any day. So.
Yeah, chaotic season's the good word to use for this.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah. So speaking of chaotic, one of my favorite challenges came back, the Surfer and Turf. Ultra, do you know like how many times we've seen this challenge? I know season 11, season 16, I believe another season. So is this the 4th or 5th time?
Yeah, I haven't kept track of how often it's been used, but it is definitely a staple now. And I think it is a good way to gauge people's palates early on in the competition. I do like that because just the blind taste test by itself, where you're blindfolded and having your ears covered with like loud music, I feel as though that's expert level having your palate tested. Whereas that's not everyone's going to shine through there. Now, if you felt with testing your palate in several different challenges where you can even see the food, then your palate definitely isn't up to par. But so I do like having like an easier form of that challenge. I guess my favorite highlight from the challenge is just seeing Brad in a surf and turf challenge try the garnish, which doesn't factor in whatsoever to the actual score.
And he brought the turf and turf, like Party Pickles is saying. That was hilarious too. Brad had quite the episode. We'll get into Brad in a second. Cheyenne, how do you think you would? Were you disappointed this challenge never came on? How do you think you would do on this challenge? Because we'll get a second.
Yeah, whenever it came on my screen, I was immediately mad. I was like, they've gotten so many cool challenges this season. That was one I would have really enjoyed to do. I don't know how great I would have been. I don't eat seafood. I don't like seafood at all. So I honestly would have probably struggled like when it was halibut, but it looked like it could have been shrimp. Like that would have been probably really, really difficult for me to do. I'm not even joking. So I would have been horrible, but it would have been a lot of fun to play.
So with that said, you say you've been horrible. So let me, and chat, this goes for you too. Ultra, ask you this. How do you feel about, because this is something I've never even asked you, how do you feel about the fact that like the other chefs like help, do you feel like it should just be like the two people go and they just go until they get it? How do you feel about like, getting, I mean, obviously sometimes it doesn't work. As we saw for the red team, it didn't help them anyway. Do you feel like that's better TV because it's more chaotic? How do you feel about that, Ultra?
I feel as though given it is a team challenge, if you remove most of the team from this kind of interaction, it does sort of take something away from it. And we do have some pretty good moments of people showing how good they'd be at this without even having to taste it. I remember in season 11, Ray could very easily tell what one of the proteins was by sight alone. And pretty memorably in season 13, there was Sterling who could easily tell what alligator chili looked like. And yeah, like most of his team was originally not even listening to him, even though he was 100% right. And I thought that was a good highlight there too. So yeah, I think the team should kind of be a part of this. It does add to the entertainment value, and it fits more with the spirit of what we're asking for here.
All right, cool. So yeah, if I remember correctly, look, it was Sandra and Danya that was the weak pair for the red team, right?
I believe so. Let me double check what I have written down here.
Yeah. Regardless, though, the red team, anyone, chat, we were actually talking about this before stream, chat. So if you can back this up, it was 13 minutes and 15 seconds around there. Yeah, because Ramsey made the joke about 5 minutes and eight to that. Chat, let us know if that's the worst of all time. And the blue team did very, very good, like 6.5 minutes. I don't think that's the best of all time. I think there's a team that did like 5 or even 6 minutes around.
It wasn't Danya and Sandra. It was that was like a little later. It was Atoye and Carmen, the very first pair, who I knew took the longest time. They took at least a third of the time they had.
Oh, okay. So if they did that, that's probably true. But I know they really honed in on Danya and whatnot, and her partner. I forgot her partner. I know they really honed on her because that's when everything got really chaotic and whatnot. So, but yeah, it's interesting. Let me see these comments if they say. I think 16 was yeah with the whole freaking chicken, the red team, the Gia freaking. Oh my god, that was fun. That was brilliant. Yeah, so I think season 16 was the worst. Let me know which was the best of the guys in the chat. But yeah, I mean, good challenge, a fun challenge. I mean, I really, really like this challenge. And chat, let me know what you guys think if you were this challenge in terms of iconic challenges ranks for you. Because like you said, Ultra, it's becoming like a staple in Modern Hell's Kitchen. I really enjoy it, just how chaotic it is. And whether you say like it's unfair or not, that the players get the help, it does make for chaotic TV, right? I saw the comment earlier about chicken. So yeah, Shayna times was that comment, Shayna times chicken. So iconic. All right, cool. So yeah, I mean, kind of, a axe throwing competition. I check it real quick. What would you enjoy it? I thought that was a really, really interesting reward of all things axe throwing.
I was shocked that was a reward that Gordon showed up to. It felt very like that was so random for Gordon to be there. Yeah. It was cool though. I mean, I think it's cooler than when they took us bowling. I mean, that's just me. I would have preferred axe throwing over bowling, but it was interesting. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, like usually he shows up when it's like some fancy reward. I thought that was funny too.
Exactly.
But yeah, so nothing really happened in some sense in the blue team, but we did see some interesting, not really foreshadowing. In fact, we get the opposite. I think the editors are trying to throw us off. So we saw Sammy kind of feeling unconfident, before service. At the same time, out of nowhere, I kind of talked about last week how I think Lee's going to be a potential winner at it. Lee got some great contact with Christina Wilson, even saying how she was doing good. So Ultra, obviously, without keeping in mind what we know happens later in the episode, what did you think about these two random scenes when it comes to winners at it? Because both Sammy and Lee are in that interesting spot where, obviously Sammy's like a big front runner, but Lee as well too, where, you got to really start paying attention to these type of things. So what do you think about these two random scenes?
It kind of reminds me crossing over a little bit into MasterChef because they have a lot of those prep-like challenges too. And if I were judging based on that, I probably would factor in this punishment for that because it would sort of tie in. But I never usually do that because it's not really what matters in the show overall, because doing great in the punishment and doing great in actual challenges and services don't really factor in. For example, one of the few mistakes I remember Alex making in his season that people harped on was he couldn't put a compost together, which what does that have to do with the kitchen? Nothing. This punishment, it would have more to do with the kitchen, but it's something that you can still bounce back from because it's not really I mean, you should know it for the job, but it's not something where if you don't know it, it should immediately put you up for elimination. Because I've seen that kind of thing in this show too. People saying that, oh, because you're bad in prep, you should go home. Not necessarily, because the job is to be the head chef of a new restaurant, not a prep chef. So that wouldn't necessarily be your responsibility anyways.
So Cheyenne, let me ask you, who's kind of your front runners as now there are 5 episodes in the season, right? Who's kind of your front runners to win right now?
I think Jonathan is getting an incredible edit, a very similar to Alex edit. If he is messing up, we don't know about it. The moments we see of him, much like Alex, is when he's helping other people he's on the station with, like Alex with Zeus, and there was one other person Alex guided a lot, but he's getting a very similar edit. So Jonathan is definitely up there with me right now. I thought Sammy for doing so good on her sig dish. I thought Sammy was being really under edited until this episode. And you can tell that as soon as she caught herself slipping, she had a total turnaround this episode, and she was doing an incredible job on Garnish. So Sammy and Jonathan are definitely front runners, leaders, all of that right now.
Yeah, I forgot about this. I forgot he wins. But that was an objective freaking statement, right? So
you're okay. Yeah, no, you're good.
And I think that's the thing. I think most people would.
Like, I don't know. I saw Lucas Marble in the bottom say, like, that I think Cheyenne would know who won. I'm going to assume you don't because NDAs and all that stuff.
I absolutely know who wins.
Okay. Don't tell us.
No, you're good. But I am watching this season from a fan standpoint. And so I don't know the boot order. I don't know any crazy details. So the episodes are as shocking to me as they are to anybody else. I just know how the finale goes. That's it.
So obviously I think that's kind of the consensus, right? Jonathan and Sammy as the top 2. So what's your kind of opinion on Lee? Because that was a big discussion point last week on our draft. She seems to be, and we see it from the comments, right? She's doing good, it seems, but very, very under-edited. Do you think she's an underdog? Do you think she's not important to the story? Possible winner? What do you think?
Lee is definitely giving underdog energy. And I said it in Discord earlier, but before the season started, I had Melissa as a really high pick and Lee right behind her. But watching Melissa kind of fall off the charts this episode gave me more faith that Lee will become a front runner up there with Sammy on the red team. I think her and Danya are going to become really strong voices in the next couple episodes. But I definitely see Lee having her moments here and becoming a front runner.
Cool. So speaking of Melissa, let's talk about, we'll get an elimination here. A very, very shocking and quick downfall. Maybe like if I ever do an episode of 1 episode downfalls, that would probably be it. Melissa Ultra, we've been kind of building up for it for a while with Melissa. Of course, going back to the punishment pass, but it really just kind of seems like she was just done with their team. Like, she's still done with them, right? So were you expecting Ultra, as a big fan of the show, that like this was like a beginning of a downfall for her, or just like more cattiness we've seen so far from the red team?
I didn't expect her to go down quite like this. This definitely was something that feels kind of abrupt to the point where I'm going to speculate that we might have missed a few things in the edit on this one. Like, not everything was shown. We saw that she was done with her team, but I'm like, over just a couple challenge losses, come on. Megan from season 14 was exactly like that, and she kept to it because she really wanted this job, and she never let up her strong, authoritative personality in the competition. Like, people say authoritative in, like, a negative sense. It's not negative. Like, she knew how to run her team. And yeah, she'd be pissed that her team was losing whenever they were, which honestly wasn't even that often at the time. But like, that wasn't a bad attitude. That was her just wanting her team to get their stuff together, which I can appreciate at least that. It'd be hypocritical if she was screwing up a lot too, but she wasn't. So yeah, Melissa wasn't really screwing up either, but it does feel like her attitude of screw my team, I don't want anything to do with them. I'm not really sure how much the lead-in was for that. So, except for maybe the punishment 2 episodes ago when, her team didn't back her up and all. But I think that's kind of weak reasoning.
Yeah, real quick, this good comment for Jack. If your name is Melissa, you're basically screwed, right? Melissa season 3, huge downfall. Melissa season 8, just screwing up 2 straight services, and now Melissa here, a huge downfall. And a quick segue because I gotta do it. It's actually kind of funny for this week's video, being it's Halloween weekend. It's gonna be finally, and I hate to say that with Cheyenne here because if we all know about curses, right? She's a part of a huge curse in Hell's Kitchen. I guess meant to be. So yeah, guys, be on the lookout for that this weekend, as I'll be talking about the most notorious curses in Hell's Kitchen history. And one of those curses involves names, right? And unfortunately, I wish I would have done that video later now because I guess you can add Melissa to the list of cursed names in Hell's Kitchen, it seems. So yeah, we'll talk more about Melissa here in a second. But yeah, that was just, again, at the time I thought it was just, more catty drama, but it looked like to be the start of her downfall. Head into service. So let's talk about service real quick, Cheyenne. Have you kind of noticed these start times? Because last week we didn't know the start time, but I noticed once again we got started at 7:26. That seems to be the cursed number. The first two episodes started at that exact same time, and they're both failures. So did you think we were in for another bad service after a good service last week?
Interesting. Yeah, I figured today would be weird. I think that the red team's vibe has been off the whole time, so I'm not really expecting them to get on track for another few episodes. But I think between Jonathan and maybe Ryan and it seems like Devin are able to get the blue team under control. So I kind of saw it coming, a blue team win, but yeah, the red team is going to be a minute, I think, before they start to get it together.
And Ultra, how did you feel about service? Did you feel like we were going to go back to another terrible? I mean, obviously this wasn't great, but another ejection service, a really good service, a service like today. How are you kind of feeling going into the service, especially if you notice the start time?
I honestly was, as the service was progressing, I was kind of expecting a Brad ejection mid-service, which would have been a shame because, again, I love watching Brad, but it felt like kind of similar to Mateus in the last episode. He was just having a few too many screw-ups for a chef of his caliber. And I know he's a good chef. It's just one of those things where the pressure might have been getting to him, even with the fact of him sounding kind of hoarse. I think with the pressure maybe getting to him a little bit. I was expecting that. I'm happy we didn't get that because as dramatic as that would have been, I didn't want to see him leave at this point because I do think he at least has a decent attitude despite whatever jitters he's trying to shake off. So yeah, that's what I was expecting to happen. It didn't happen. So that is what that is.
All right, cool. So let's talk about the service then. Start off. So it seems like these past, even the terrible services, at least the appetizers were good. But in both kitchens, we got off to a bad start with the appetizers. And of course, Gordon being Gordon, he sees those rivalries between Carmen, Renisha, and Sandra. So of course, he put those two on the fish and apps together to communicate, which kind of went, as bad as you expect, right? And then we saw on blue team as well a bad start with Brad at first. The big miscommunication, right? So we've, of course, as you guys know, Cheyenne, I don't know if you know this as well. Brad's been a huge fan favorite this season. And why don't you talk about it? Being a fan favorite yourself? How do you feel about Brad, his underdog story? Do you feel like he's indeed this season's underdog are going to be going home really soon?
Brad is a lot of fun to watch. He is so chaotic. Even when they're not focusing on him, if you watch him in the background, he's constantly reaching over somebody or spinning or twisting or trying. He's just trying to help too much. I think he's very chaotic. And he's already had his fair share of moments where he hasn't been so great. So I don't exactly see an underdog story out of him, but I think he's going to be a lot of fun to watch all the way until if he gets eliminated, then that'll be his moment. But yeah,
for sure. So let's talk about Brad's episode because again, it started off really bad, but we already kind of got an underdog arc from him in the middle of service, right? He was really messing up during the appetizers, right? Kind of almost forgetting the orders. But he really bounced back, got everything back on track. And it's kind of funny, too. He got everything back on track, but yet Ramsey still kind of kicked him out of the kitchen, because he's almost getting a little too excited, right? So, Ultra, what do you this is a very, very interesting episode for Brad, right? As the comments go crazy for Brad. What do you kind of feel about Brad's episode? Very, very interesting one here.
I can see the effort in him, and I can see the spirit in him as well. I know he really wants to be there. I know he's trying his hardest to just to be a good chef in that season. And man, I do appreciate that so much from him. I'm not going to lie. I do think that maybe he could be going home soon just because I think that these weak performances are going to kind of pile up. I know that the second time he was nominated was complete BS. Had they lost this service, I do think he would have been nominated, and I think that would have been fair just because it was a little too inconsistent. I think had the blue team lost, it would have been Brad and Jermaine, because as soon as I saw Jermaine pulling on tinfoil around the line tennis, my first thought is, I have never once seen it on this show before. Since when is that a rule?
So let's talk about so everything else in the blue team, Jason, say what you will about him. He had a great service, his best one so far. The only other mistake surprisingly became from two frontrunners in Jermaine and, our big frontrunner Jonathan on the meet. Now, granted, it was only one mistake, right? So, Cheyenne, and this chat, this goes for you, and this goes for you, Ultra and Cheyenne. Do you think that, who do you think would have been eliminated had the blue team lost service? Do you think it would have been Jermaine for a terrible mistake, or Brad, just being Brad, right? Who do you guys think would have gone?
I think it would have been really easy for them to just keep nominating Brad and kind of get him out of the way. It seems like that's their go-to right now. I think because he came off so frazzled, they're just like, well, put up Brad because he messed up one little thing. I think they would have put up Brad and he would have ran out of time based on that would that be his third nomination?
Right.
Yeah, so I think it would have been Brad. I don't think Jermaine has anything to worry about with that little mistake.
I do agree that Brad probably would have gone home, although I have again seen something like this happen before on the show. Johnny's elimination in season 16, where he didn't sear off fish before the beginning of service, which put his team drastically behind. A mistake so amateur that even Gordon Ramsay called him out on it, saying like, no, that's never been how we've done it, which I'm pretty sure Johnny should have known, given that wasn't even his first time on Fish Station. So I'm not sure how he would have made that mistake. I'm not sure if this was Jermaine's first time on meet. So, yeah, I guess if it's a mistake that you bounce back from like immediately, maybe that can be forgiven. So I guess that would have been the only instance I could have seen Jermaine going home first. But yeah, if you actually look at the tally, it is probably Brad who would have been more in danger.
Yeah, it would have been interesting too, because it really did feel like he had a good service. It just, other than like a few slip ups, like one slip up at the beginning there, but like his energy was like almost too much for even Gordon to handle. So again, we'll see. Like obviously, thank goodness blue team won, and it would have been really unlucky too, because like it just happened to be like Jermaine and Jonathan who've been great so far that messed up. But yeah, he lives to fight another day. Continues to be a fan favorite. And yeah, I mean, we talk about underdogs so much this season because again, there's the one downside about the season. There are a lot of we talked about this last week, a lot of invisible contestants, in my opinion, not invisible, but so far kind of forgettable. And it's just like, who's going to be what? Who's going to be that underdog? Who's going to be like the first black jacket, all that stuff. So Brad's definitely not, invisible though. So maybe it's just setting up for him to be like the star of the season. We'll see. So overall, very fun episode for him to see. Any other comments for you two about the blue team service though, or the blue team in general? Kind of a quiet episode for them, but.
I'll be honest, I am pleasantly surprised by how Jason did. For one, he has been making enough mistakes, often centered around his ego, but also some amateur cooking mistakes to where I feel that he has been one of the weak players on his team, as well as just hard to like players. Here, though, I like to think that finally the arrogance matured into confidence instead, because he was also very helpful in the blue team winning that reward challenge, since he was the one who went up twice for his team, and both times it actually went very well during the reward challenge. And yeah, he did pretty well on appetizers. The edit didn't show him being a problem at all. Like even the fish agent said, no, we knew we were just behind. So I'm hoping that this is some kind of beginning for a redemption arc for Jason, because I would like to see that. I'd like to see, like, rather than like a downfall in ego like I've seen some chefs have, if a chef starts out bad, but then becomes a lot better by the end of the season, that's actually a lot more inspirational and more satisfying.
Cheyenne, I saw you shaking your head. You want to see a Jason downfall like everyone else, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason for anybody to have that kind of energy in Hell's Kitchen. I am not rooting.
He wants a Jason comeback. No, we want a Jason downfall.
Like I say, it's like I want people to get better, like as people, because I don't always want the worst, but if there's no saving them, like the other infamous Jason in Hell's Kitchen, Jason Underwood, there was no redeeming that dude. I was like, yeah, get him out. Anyway,
even the preview of next week is not good for him.
It's like at least with this episode, I saw the potential that he could be better, and so far I do at least hate him less than Jason Underwood, but he is still probably down like near the bottom as the least likable chefs in this season. But again, like hoping for the best. I'm just not expecting the best.
All right, cool. So let's talk about the red team service now. So yeah, as we said, got off to a bad start with the appetizers. Then, like I said, kind of touched about it earlier. I thought like with Lee, right? They're setting up, Lee's big, this is her big breakout episode. But they just now, to be fair, it wasn't like a terrible service for her. They just showed her messing up once. So, Ultra, what do you kind of feel about Lee's overall episode? This was a very, very odd episode. Her and Sammy kind of had opposite episodes where it looked like they were set up for Lee to do something great and Sammy to mess up, where Sammy was really a standout on the garnish and Lee, again, not a terrible night, but I found it odd that they hyped her up that much, only for her to show her making a mistake on the meat dish, whatever it was. So what do you kind of feel about Lee's overall episode here?
I don't know if I should be speaking for this person, but this was also I told my mom about this episode and she chose to watch it because the person who was at the chef's table was Paula Abdul, who happens to be my mother's favorite music artist. Personally, I think it's a pretty good choice. I like Paula Abdul. And I believe the mistake that Lee made was for Paula Abdul's table, no less. I'm pretty sure that was why the fish station kind of rushed out their orders, whereas it had to be kept back a little bit for Lee, and that's why the steak was raw, which I kind of called instantly. Again, not from what I saw, just something about the tone and the editing gave me the impression that ain't going to be a fully cooked steak, which I was right. They did rebound, so there's that. I'm pretty sure my mom would have been a little annoyed. Like, you're going to serve raw steak to, like, my favorite artist?
Yeah.
I know they didn't mean to. It's just one of those things that happens. And Lee does bounce back, so I'm not going to hold that too much against her. But I know how my mom – I'm confident at least how my mom would feel about that.
Yeah, there had some pop. They had a lot of famous people in there today. Matt Stoney, the YouTuber. I don't know, you guys know Matt Stoney, right? Oh, you don't know her? Yo,
I personally don't, but
no, really? Oh yeah, he's just like a competitive eater. So if you saw him, right, he's some skinny guy, right? He can eat like some crazy amount of food. It's really funny.
Huh.
But I think he made a comment about that during like the service. I forgot what it was, but yeah, just hilarious to see. All right, cool. Yeah, so the rest of the red team service, again, we kind of saw the only other thing we haven't really talked about was Melissa. And that's the thing about Melissa. She didn't really have any mess ups, but like she was just kind of shown to be in the background. Cheyenne, what do you kind of think about Melissa? Do you think that really was the case? I really thought that was just kind of editing, right? Kind of like built this rivalry. But as we saw, that obviously was the case, at least in Ramsey's eyes. So what do you kind of think about Melissa in this episode?
I have a theory.
All right,
I personally think that this episode was filmed on a Monday. And I say that because our wake up call for Mondays was around 4:30 in the morning and she looked tired. She looked gassed and like she didn't want to be there. And it was so out of character that I genuinely think that it was a Monday and she was just having a really off day and she let it impact her way too much. Like I got eliminated on a Monday as well. And I knew I was going home when I woke up that day. I was so tired. So I think she was having an off day. She let it get to her head. I don't think it was truly about the challenges getting to her. I think this bitch was tired and she couldn't hold up.
The curse of the Mondays, if there's ever a chance we get a stat like how many people, well, I guess like everyone's eliminated.
I'm not sure. Like we'd have to ask people personally about this sort of thing because I don't think they ever once say in the show like this episode happens on this day of the week. I've never heard of that. So, but yeah, that sounds like a pretty valid thing because otherwise, like nothing about like add to the side, nothing about her actual performances and challenges or services really justified her going home. Like
no, I cannot believe, and I said it when I was watching with Emily, I can't believe she went home on her first nomination just based on how strong she's been. That completely shocked me.
We'll get that in a second, right? Yeah. So let's talk about the rest of the service, right? Because what I thought was going to happen, right? It looked like we were in for a great ending, right? And then the last second, we got another fish dish. So a fish messed up dish. So, and that's what Renisha, who was on fish again? Renisha and Sandra, right? Yeah. So Ultra, at that point, I was convinced, and Chad, you can say the same thing, right? I was convinced it was going to be fish because they like screwed up. Literally, even for like Lee was like the reason why she had a bad dish, as the chat confirmed, was because of the fish. So how confident were you that after that, it was 100% going to be the fish, or did you think it was going to be Melissa?
Or no? I was confident at least one person from fish was going to be up there, and I felt like it would have definitely been Sandra at least because we saw her mess up scallops at least twice. And I was like, after Sandra, I was like, okay, I know it's going to be either Renisha or Melissa. I was kind of leaning towards it being Renisha, and I would have been like, well, my draft's already losing one player instantly, because my entire lineup was red team members. The only 3 I didn't have were Melissa. It was Melissa, Lee, and who was the last person? I'm trying to remember.
It was
I didn't have those 3. But then when it was revealed last minute that no, we're not Melissa, I was like, okay, there's a chance my draft stays intact, and it did stay intact, which I'm happy about that part. But at the expense, I feel like Renisha probably deserved to be nominated more than Melissa. My personal stakes in this being put aside, because Renisha has had more weak moments so far. Like she's not been devoid of strong moments too. Like when she was leading her team during during the episode 3 reward service they had, but her pizza dip dish from the last episode, which made no sense to me.
It's iconic.
I mean, it's iconically bad. It's just one of those things was like, what? That's not what he's asking for. I don't think he's gonna like that. So I feel as though it would have probably had Renisha been nominated. I think she goes home over Sandra, actually. So I guess maybe it helps for ratings because Melissa I think Renisha is better television than Melissa, because Melissa is like the low key kind of not a team player, whereas at least Renisha has a lot of energy in her.
All right, cool. And Cheyenne, what did you feel after the service? Who do you think was going to be the nominees for the red team?
I thought Fish Station was just going to go up. So I was thinking Renisha and Sandra, with Sandra leaving, and I think Sandra should have left, to be frank.
Yeah. So let's get into that nomination, or the nomination. We got one Fish Station, but we got Melissa, right? So I assume we all agree this could go down as one of the more underrated, surprising, early boots of Hell's Kitchen. I mean, you've seen the chat, right? It's going crazy, right? I assume you both agree that we all thought it was going to be Sandra, right? Not just based on the, at least for me personally, not just based on in terms of performance, but edit wise, they literally showed Sandra freaking out over noise last episode. So she's been weak so far. So I was like, okay, whatever, early boot. Now we totally get it now. And that's another thing too. She's not exactly interesting TV like Renisha, right? If it was Renisha and Melissa, I could see it. But she's not exactly interesting TV, and we got Melissa, starting fights with everyone. So, Ultra, where does this kind of rank for you in terms of surprise? I mean, I assume you were surprised by it, right?
I was. Again, just because nothing about it really made sense. Whereas if Sandra had gone home, there would have been enough to justify that with both this bad service and a couple other services where maybe she wasn't awful, but she was having a similar issues in regards to just not listening to her team and not being a very strong voice. And that kind of boot would actually be kind of common for this stage of the game, because you got people like Amanda from season 9, Brianna from season 10, people who weren't really awful throughout their time on the season, but they had one kind of weak service. They were never very strong television. I'll give Sandra this. I think she's better television than maybe those other 2 women I just mentioned, as well as stronger than Melissa on that. But yeah, it feels like at least there would have been a better justification for that here. But yeah, instead we had Melissa go home, and I am fairly surprised because I feel like there would have been more to it than that.
Yeah, that's the thing. I just feel like we're missing, the edit, just feels like we're missing something. If anything, even if she had the worst attitude ever, or how, because
I've seen worse. 12 had a much worse attitude than Melissa did.
Even early on, because usually Gordon, just, if you have a low voice, he gives you a wake up call, especially his first time up. Early on, it's mistakes, so people go home. So I was just completely, not flabbergasted, but very, very shocked to see. Again, performance-wise, edit-wise, it just seemed like Melissa was bound to stay. So, Cheyenne, how do you feel about this elimination? How shocked were you on a scale of 1 to? You already kind of said very, very shocked, right?
Yeah, I thought Melissa would go even to Black Jackets. So I think I don't know what was going on. Her service wasn't even bad. That was the thing. And you can see Gordon not even getting frustrated with her on garnish, but kind of guiding her hey, I told you to put butter in that. Hey, sit this on the grill. Never during service was he frustrated and said, what have I told you? I told you to put your garnish over here to stay warm. So I don't know. And I told Emily while we were watching it right before her speech, and I said, I wonder if she goes home because her plea to stay is bad. And then it wasn't. Yeah, so I don't even understand. I'm actually still kind of shocked. I don't get it. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw someone say, I don't think I've been this shocked since Adam, and like, but even like then I can understand that from like an edit wise why you keep Mark around. I'm so flabbergasted, like for ratings wise, it doesn't make sense. Like, just doesn't make sense in general, especially this early on. So, and here's one thing I was expecting, especially with all that talk. If you guys kind of remember, like Gordon was saying a lot of things. I forgot what the comment was, but he made like a reference to like everyone back in line, right, to step up before like telling Melissa to go home. So Cheyenne, did you think that, like Connor says here, did you expect her to go to the blue team at all?
Kind of. I don't know if he thought she would have benefited from a team switch. I think maybe if she would have switched with Brad, that would have been interesting based on Brad exiting the kitchen tonight to cool down. I would have liked to see that dynamic a little bit, but I think the girls just would have picked Brad off, and I'm sure he kind of picked up on that. So I don't know. I think it was just the whole thing's weird. I don't know.
You know what would have been interesting? Yeah, had that actually happened, that would have been the third contestant named Melissa we've had who has swapped from the red team to the blue team.
Oh wow,
that would have been like, okay, that's a trend. Like
yeah.
You can't. It's not coincidence anymore. That is a full-on trend.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So let's bring up Melissa. We kind of already talked about her, covering the entire screen here, but yeah, Melissa. What's her over? A very, very odd early boot run. Started by winning the punishment pass, then like her downfall kind of began with her attitude change with the whole punishment pass, or the whole confetti gate, whatnot, then used the next episode. And then like one, like not even bad service and she's gone, like a very, very odd run, So Ultra, what do you think, how will you remember Melissa? Do you honestly think like years from now, we'll still be talking about Melissa's like shocking elimination?
I think a little bit, at least for that. I don't know if we'll get much about her outside of that, even for some of the highlights she had, both positive and negative, like getting the punishment pass as well as confetti gate. So she has a little bit on both spectrums there. I do think that, again, I can't say I'm 100% shocked that she isn't the winner of this season, just because I've sort of noticed a trend regarding like regarding her type on this show, like her archetype, I should say, just somebody who has like a pretty poor attitude. But again, given what Cheyenne told us about how it probably was on Monday and it affected her attitude, which is a fair thing. Mondays are a day nobody likes. I don't think that should have justified her going home. If anything, okay, this is going to sound kind of weird. It sounds like she was sent home for a similar reason to Elliot in season 19, because did he technically do anything wrong in his service? I mean, he didn't do anything, but he didn't say anything after the pass wrong, as far as we could tell. He was just like bereft, like not there. But I could see Melissa at least helping a little bit in her team. Like bad attitude or not, like she wasn't doing nothing. She was just staying around. So I do think there's going to be a lot of speculation in the future about like, well, this she shouldn't have gone home. Like she deserved a lot better. Like, Adam season 19 or Hassan season 13. Like,
I'm getting a lot of Ashley vibes, like a pretty like maybe not forgettable, but like a very like shocking early, just not something you would expect,
Season 13 or season 17?
13.
13? You can.
I'm getting a lot of vibes from that. But I don't know. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, especially like this. Like, I know I sound like a broken record, but like this early, like usually see those shocking eliminations later on. Which again, like I can see like yes or BS, but I can see ratings wise for some of them. But so Cheyenne, what's your kind of overall thoughts on Melissa? Very, very interesting run. So
yeah, I think after punishment pass, I commented to somebody who asked me that, but I think that they expected her to do a lot better than she did. I think they wanted her to be like a firecracker. As soon as she won the punishment pass, kind of like make her way up the ranks and kind of really prove herself the same way Jonathan is. And I think she fell flat a little bit. I totally forgot about her lying to Christina. That was weird. I don't know. Her performance randomly got weird. I think the environment was probably a lot for her. And like I said before, I just think she was gassed by the show. I think she was tired and probably just not cut out for it. So I think she kind of almost gave up a little bit.
I would ask, I asked both you this too. Oh, you already kind of said, you said she would get black jackets, right?
Yeah, I mean, because when people start off so strong, I have such high hopes for them until they prove otherwise. So as soon as she started like the lie to Christina, I was like, ooh, what's going on? And then, yeah, she let me down.
For sure. It was so interesting because like I was so shocked that she ended up being last in our draft last week. And it's so funny. I was like so happy to get her because she has potential. Because I saw people on like Reddit on here saying she should be like top 5. I saw even someone say like top 3. Like, it just again, due to their attitude, I couldn't imagine like her winning. But like, wow, I could not actually believe. I genuinely cannot believe she's actually that we actually picked it wrong. We got it right. Ultra, you made a.
Josh,
it was between.
That's because it was me about like who I pick. I'd be picking either the person who got booed tonight or the person who just booed Josh's nomination. And
I was like, thank you. And
like,
but wow,
I picked correctly.
I could not believe it. Yeah. So
I'm shocked too. Like I'm shocked I got it right either.
So chat. Let me know what you guys think. I know some of you were here last week, but like, where did you think Melissa was going to go? Where does this like elimination rank in terms of shockness for you? Like when you compare it to other eliminations. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the theme of this episode. A very very interesting. What do you guys overall think of this episode? Very interesting. Edit wise. Dinner service wise. Does it like change anything? How you think things going forward? Cheyenne, you want to go?
Yeah, I think, which we haven't talked about yet, but I think Demir was given an incredible edit this episode. I think that he is about to catch us by storm and totally become a front runner. I forgot to talk about that earlier, but he had great leadership and product ID. You could tell he's really passionate. I think the last couple episodes he's been really quiet, but I think Demir is about to have one hell of a run. Especially like his services are getting pretty strong, his challenges are strong. So I'm rooting for Demir going forward. He's pretty high up there in my draft.
And since we got a comment, Yoshi's asked us a couple times and you haven't chatted about him. What do you think about Devin, Cheyenne? Do you even know?
He's getting so under-edited, and I think he's kind of falling similar to Tara. I say that because in the first episode, Tara was also in the dining room for the dining room appetizers. So was he. And I think he's just having like a mediocre go. I don't think there's anything spectacular about him that they're editing for him. He hasn't done much wrong. And you can kind of hear him a little bit here and there leading his team. But I don't know. I think he'll stay pretty middle ground. I can't see him just all of a sudden having this big push and running away with it. That's just my opinion.
So Ultra and chat, this goes for you too. How does this episode between like the Lee and the Sammy, even like we saw Jonathan's first mess up, Melissa going home, like how does this episode change anything for you in regards of your picks like going forward or just how you see this season going?
My picks are what they are because in the end I could have diversified it. There was like one moment specifically where I could have picked like the last blue team member in Jermaine, and I kind of didn't. So now if the red team loses, I've got a really high chance of one of my picks going home at this point. But honestly, I do have a higher opinion of Damir. I didn't even think he was bad, but seeing his signature dish did immediately make me a little concerned because I think there's only been one time in HK history where somebody served prepared stuff during a signature dish and went on to win it, and that would be Rock Harper. I'm pretty sure every other time it's usually the boot. So that
right?
Huh?
Yeah, that's crazy. I was wondering where you're going with that. I forgot Rock did that. He was the first one to do that too. And
he bounced back. Like at the very least, he owned up that that's what I did, and now I realized that was a really bad mistake. To be fair, that's the first time. I'm guessing these people wouldn't have immediately guessed like that's a no, don't do that. But at least that was something I was concerned about at first. He's bounced back tremendously so far from that. I do think Demir has good potential to make it a lot further in this competition. A part of me was wondering if maybe any of his team would say he was a little overbearing with saying stuff like, just bring a damn fish, which he said with such power that I didn't understand why that was the episode title.
Oh, yeah.
But I do see potential for him to become like a good fixture for his team.
Cool. Yeah. I guess I kind of forgot about Demir, right? Just another person who's just kind of been there. But yeah, now that you brought it up, he was kind of like, say what you will about, people getting involved in a challenge. He wasn't getting involved. He was just motivating his team, right? Got the story there. That would be pretty fun. Wouldn't that be something modern Hell's Kitchen? What, 15 years after Rock Richie did it? I saw someone compare him to The Rock, right? After all these terrible chefs, who we literally just laugh at, we cannot believe are doing prepackaged dishes. The guy who does prepackaged dish in season 22 goes on to win the season. Boy, that would be something. My goodness. I kind of want to see that happen.
Not just that. Usually the people who make prepared stuff like boxed or canned or whatever, usually have a pretty bad attitude about it too. Like Jonathan season 9. Mike season 12, Monique season 14. Like, it's not just they made the bad dish; they had a crummy attitude about it too. Damir did not have that. He instantly realized, "Yep, I screwed up. I shouldn't have done that." So that also gives me a little bit of hope.
All right, cool. Yeah. So I just gotta give her one more because there goes my pick. Let's bring her up one more time. Melissa is gone. So one draft down for me. So I genuinely cannot believe it. Ultra. You saw me last week. I was like laughing at you for doing that. I was like, thank you very much.
Hey, it is what it is. Like I was gonna be, I'd be sort of a laughing stock anyway, because again, I got all red on my side. So if the red team loses again next week, again, I might just dodge one bullet to just take a different one.
Yeah, we'll see.
So like, don't count anybody out on this draft.
All right. Does any of you two have any other comments about the episode from what you've seen? Just any other comments, or just comments about maybe what to expect for these next coming weeks? Obviously, Cheyenne, since obviously Ocho will be joining me, but Cheyenne, like you specifically.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think next episode will be really interesting, given Jason's edit that I know he's about to get based on the next time on Hell's Kitchen. I think next episode is going to be a lot more fun to watch. I think Jason's about to have one hell of a donkey episode. I'm looking forward to it. That's all I got.
So you think he's going home? You think?
I think
his downfall next episode?
I hope he goes home, but I bet you he stays. I bet you they end up finding a way to put Brad up. I bet you he survives, or a red team could lose it. No one knows. No one knows.
This season has been really unpredictable in this.
Yes.
This especially, yeah.
But consistent, at least. Like, aside from Melissa going home, which that part's inconsistent. But so far, Jonathan's pretty solid. Ryan's pretty solid. Sammy's pretty solid. A couple of other firmers are also very solid. So unless we see like some big splash where suddenly all three of them just start going early, then I'll be like, oh, goodness, you're giving season 15 a run for its money, because I did not expect any of that.
Yeah, I saw Ryan. Someone make a comment. Ryan was invisible too, right? So we got again, a couple like big confessionals from people this week, and like Ryan, went invisible. So yeah,
I don't even think Ryan had a confessional this episode.
I saw it. He didn't. Yeah, I think we remember that. Yeah.
Wow.
That's right. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. So yeah, any other Ultra not for you? Any other final comments about this episode before we call, or like going forward before we call it a day?
I don't think so. I think we covered it all.
All right, cool. Chat, since we're here, we'll maybe stretch this like 50 minutes because I'm gonna have OCD like that. But yeah, if you have any other comments for Cheyenne, feel free to ask them now. Cheyenne, I know I've asked this before, but yeah, where can people find you on social media? What can people expect from you going forward? As you said, it's busy season for all chefs. What about you? How are you doing these days?
Yeah, it's about to get insanely busy for me. You can find me on Instagram, chef_Cheyenne. Lots of holiday recipes coming soon. But going into the holiday season, all chefs are super busy. I'd be surprised if you see many more new faces on your stream. A lot of us do catering now, private chef stuff. So yeah, find me on Instagram. I'm really active on there. I'm also really active on the Hell's Kitchen Discord server, like a nerd.
Yeah.
I'm a nerd too.
Yeah, and I saw someone say a comment about, no, not a comment. Cheyenne just said it. What am I saying? It said how it's going to be tough to get people on. I will say, guys, as a spoiler for next week, not a spoiler because I can't promise, but I'm hoping to get someone from Cheyenne's season who, spoiler alerts, was a big part of Cheyenne's storyline, right? So that's all I can say for right now. I'm hoping.
You traitor! Who are you getting on here?
We'll see. I hope. I can't promise. I know this person hasn't
made so many options.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, 1 in 17 shop getting it right.
No, I would say this. It's because I already had Alex on and Alyssa and Alejandro on Cheyenne. So honestly, and Mindy on. So it's none of those. So 1 in 13. So at this point.
Okay, yeah, good math there.
I'm gonna get all the season 21 contestants on at this point. So yeah, guys, expect that for last week. Maybe let's see if there's any good questions for Cheyenne or
the question I saw at the bottom. Someone said about would you interview Dave? It's not a matter of what, it's a matter of can you? Like, as in, are you able to get him on? Because obviously the answer is yes if you want to.
Yeah, Ruby, you're supposed to do that for us, dude. I will say we lost my pick tonight. Yeah, and like I said, guys,
I can remind you all of your picks in order as.
Yeah, how would you do that real quick before we call it a day? Let's do it one more time.
Yeah. So Ruby, his picks were Jonathan, Damir, Jason, Atoye, and Jermaine in that order. Mine in this order were Sammy, Danya, Carmen, Sandra, and Renisha. And then Flynn, your picks were Ryan, Lee, Brad, Devin, and by default, Melissa. And Melissa's now out.
Go figure. All right, cool. All right. So yeah, everyone, thanks for joining this stream. Another fun episode. Like I said, really not been a dull episode so far. And like I said, I hope for the best next week. Either way, I should be back, whether it's just me and Ultra. Maybe I get Cheyenne back on.
Oh,
We'll see.
I'll be watching. I'll be watching when you have my nemesis on here. Trust.
Yeah, whoever that. I'm not saying it's a nemesis. I mean, maybe it could be, maybe it could not be. I'm just saying this person was a big part of your storyline, right? So we got one more high Cheyenne from Ruby. Yeah. So that was the order, Ruby. All right, cool. But yeah. So thank you all for watching. We'll see what happens next week. But until then, have a good one, y'all. And
see you later.